on this episode of the Sorority Chat podcast.
There are hobbies of mine that I will never monetize. Knitting comes to mind. I could never charge enough to make knitting profitable. And so I think if there's something that brings you intense joy and comfort, and that's how I feel about knitting, protecting that and not monetizing it is sometimes your better option. However, if you are creative and you are looking to get into that, the biggest advice I would give is valuing your time appropriately.
Hey y'all, and welcome to Sorority Chat. I'm Liz Alexander, a designer and sorority alum who's obsessed with all things Greek life. My mission? To bring you real conversations, smart insights, and fun stories that help make sorority living even better. So grab your favorite beverage, get comfy, and let's chat. Sorority chatters, welcome back. I hope you're having a good week. Joining us today is Christian Wash Garvey. She grew up in Franklin, Tennessee, and attended Furman University in Greenville, South Carolina, where she was a part of the sorority experience herself before eventually becoming a teacher. After moving to Oxford, Mississippi, she turned her creativity into a full-time business and now runs Pinewood Press Company, creating custom artwork, accessories, and gifts that have developed a really loyal following online. I'm toting one of her bandanas today, the dogwood bandana. I've had to put that on for her. So today we're going to talk about creativity, building a business from the ground up, her sorority experience at Furman, balancing motherhood and entrepreneurship, and honestly, all the kinds of hobbies and interests that make life feel full outside of work. Christian, welcome.
Thanks so much for having me. This is so fun.
Yes, I'm glad to get to talk to you today. Obviously, I'm a fan of your work, and I think you just have a cool story, and I wanted you to be able to come on and tell it.
Thanks. I enjoy what I've been able to do.
Yeah. So were you an art teacher when you were teaching or a different subject?
No. Familiar with Teach for America?
Yes.
Okay, so I was a history major. I majored in history of the American South, and I minored in poverty studies.
Okay.
Furman is a liberal arts school, if you can't tell. Those are such liberal arts degrees. And I got to senior year and I was like, I need to do something. And didn't want to go to law school, which is what a lot of my history major friends were doing. So I applied for TFA. And I ended up getting assigned to Baton Rouge for 2 years. And so I lived in Baton Rouge. I taught in Clinton, Louisiana, which is a really small town, almost in Mississippi. And that's how I got started teaching. I got an alternative teaching license during those 2 years. It hadn't really been on my radar. And so I did that for the next, I want to say six years. We moved to Nashville, which is where I am originally from. I got married in there. We moved to Nashville and I ended up becoming a teaching assistant while I was trying to figure out if and what I wanted to teach full time. And then I had kids and being an assistant just felt like a better fit. So I was a SPED assistant for a while. I was an admin assistant at an alternative school, which I loved. I also would sub in and I taught in the juvenile detention center because it was challenging to get a teacher to fill that position full time. That was a role that I've really enjoyed. And I also created a really robust library program for that school, which was probably my favorite thing that I did as a teacher.
That's really cool. Okay. And so all of this makes so much sense because you're often sharing your book recommendations online. And I know that Demon Copperhead was something that was a very powerful read for you. And this makes so much sense knowing what you studied in college.
Yes. I think you're referencing the fact that I was weeping online when I finished Demon Copperhead. That's my favorite book that I've read in the last 5 to 10 years.
Okay. I've not read it. So I guess that is the push to go ahead and read that.
Yes. This is my official endorsement.
Well, so you were a Kappa Delta at Furman, right?
I was, yeah.
And I think you still are involved some now, doing some advising at Ole Miss. But let's talk about your experience in KD while you were in college. What was that like for young Christian?
Oh my gosh. So my grandmother was the president of KD at Rhodes College over in Memphis back in the 50s when it was still Southwestern. And had her old annuals, and I always thought, oh, that's so fun. And I wanted to rush. And I grew up thinking I was going to go to Ole Miss, which is funny. I grew up in Nashville and now I live in Oxford, and I did not attend Ole Miss, but I've been an Ole Miss fan my whole life. People just assume that that's where I went. But my parents are both from South Mississippi. So I grew up in Nashville, an Ole Miss fan. And so I thought I was going to go to Ole Miss. And then when I went and visited, I was like, I don't know, it doesn't feel like quite the right fit. So then I started looking at other SEC schools, and none of them were quite right. I went to Clemson, UT, which is where 70% of my high school ended up going.
Yeah.
And so we were actually on college visits in between Clemson and Tennessee. And my mom was like, I always heard Furman is pretty. Like, do you want to go check it out? It's kind of on our route. And I was like, oh, sure, I guess. And they happened to have a campus tour. And we walked on, and it truly was, I was like, well, this is where I'm going. Cancel the other visits. My mom was like, oh, okay. Because the liberal arts, private liberal arts school was a very different thing than what I thought I was going to do. But I loved it. And I knew I wanted to rush. And the appeal of Furman Greek life to me was, it was much smaller. There's a pretty high percentage of Greek life at Furman, but like the school's only 2,600 students. At least it was when I was there. And I think it's still around there. So the sororities were much smaller, and they also rushed second semester, which I really liked, because the idea of rushing like before I'd even started classes felt really overwhelming to me, because how do you know? How are you supposed to like feel it out? And so Greek life at Furman definitely appealed to me. And then I ended up like just clicking with the girls that were in KD. So it was a fun sort of connection to my grandmother. So that it all sort of just fell into place.
That's really cool. And you hear that so many times. Somebody does a college visit and it's just like, oh, like the heavens open up and you're like, this is where I'm supposed to be, even if you had no idea that should have been on your radar.
Yes.
My granddad went to Furman, and I'm now that I'm thinking about it, I'm embarrassed to say I don't know what he studied, but he was from South Carolina and he loved his time there. Yeah. And so he ended up in Kentucky, which is where I was born and raised. But now I'm just down the road from Franklin. I'm in Martin, Tennessee, in West Tennessee.
Yeah. Yes. I had some friends that went to UT Martin for sports. I think you have a good softball team.
Yes, they do. They do. So yeah. And it's funny to hear you talk about the deferred recruitment experience and how that worked so well for you, because I didn't know anything about that, like rushing second semester. I was only familiar with what happened to me at Kentucky, which was you moved in 2 weeks early, you went through the recruitment process, and then everybody else came to campus. And so that was my lived experience. And it's only been through my work designing sorority houses that I even learned about the deferred recruitment and it happening second semester. And there's pros and cons to both, but I do think it, like you said, it lets you kind of get settled in and get your feet under you that first semester, and then go in with an open mind about, how you may want to attack the recruitment process.
Yeah, I think there are pros and cons. I would say the con of a deferred recruitment is that you kind of feel like you got to be on your toes for a whole semester. But I don't actually think that is necessarily a bad thing. I do think when you are 18 and you show up on a college campus for the first time, that can sort of unleash a lot of things. And so having sort of that guardrail on of, I don't want to do anything like that might hurt my chances in recruitment, sort of was helpful for me, at least. I can't speak for anybody else, was sort of a helpful like bumper just to like have in the back of my mind. I don't know. I liked it all around. I thought it was really helpful.
I think that's a good point. So a couple weeks ago, we had Trisha Addix. She's a Rush consultant. She was on and she's released a book called The Rush Bible, which tells people like how to prepare and go through recruitment. And she constantly talks about preparation and even as early as your junior year of high school, prepping and watching your social media and so on. And so what you're saying tracks with that. Like you're just taking that preparation and really honing it that first semester. So that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. But I mean, it was tough because it kind of felt like you had a whole semester to mess up if you wanted to look at it glass half empty. But to me, the half full part is that you really got to know, like we obviously had like very strict rules around like the interactions, right? 40 women and then freshmen, which I think are important for sure. And so it was almost like speed dating. Like you had to if I'm remembering correctly, and it may not be like this anymore, we had to like register that you were going to go to lunch with a potential new, a P&M, right? A potential new member. But it kind of, I think the goal was to keep everything above board, but it to me was nice because you got a lot of time to get to know this new class of women that were coming up. And they got a lot of time to figure out like who they felt like they jived with. So I felt like it made then actual formal recruitment not as, I mean, of course it was overwhelming and stressful. You're 18 and you're rushing, but like you knew the girls, like there were familiar faces. I think we had 6 sororities when I was there, and I don't think that that's the number they have anymore. But I knew at least someone in every recruitment round, which was nice and would not have been the case had I rushed at Ole Miss from Nashville knowing no one.
Yeah, it would have been a different experience for sure.
Totally. Or even rushing first semester at Furman. I wouldn't have known anybody.
Yep. Yeah. So that probably gave you a sense of calm just to have a little familiarity going on.
Yeah, totally. We already kind of had some stuff to talk about. I was on like the student activities board with a bunch of girls, upperclassmen, so I knew them. So it was nice.
Yeah. Yeah. Where does your creativity come from? Where do you get that streak?
I feel like the women in my family have been artists here and there throughout. One of my, maybe a great aunt was an oil painter. Everybody in my family has, particularly the women, have been pretty creative. I do think I'm the first one who's turned it into a career, which is fun. I think most of them did it as a hobby, but like my mom is a really talented oil painter and she would never tell you that. But I have several of her paintings hanging in my house. And we were just always like, she actually was an architecture, like draftsman, like drafter. So growing up, it was a pretty common experience to like draw rooms with her. Have you seen like the stencils that they use when architecture drafting used to be analog? So she always just had fun, utilitarian, but fun art supplies that I would get into. So I've always been crafty. And then the opportunity to sort of expand and let other people into it was really fun.
That is so cool that everybody does oils in your family. I love oil paints, but I can't figure them out. And so like I mostly get mad and put them away.
Oils are particularly hard because the beauty of them is that they don't dry down so you can mix. But also to me, that's really hard because you either have to wait a long time for them to dry and then do your layer, or whatever you've done is going to impact what you're trying to do. You just have to have such a deep knowledge of color theory and light and shadow and all the things that I wish I had. I often wish that I was like trained in art because there are things like color theory in particular that I sort of have to like gut my way through and like go on vibes. And I'm like, man, Furman has a great art department. And I'm like, I sort of wish I'd taken art classes, but it's fun. Sometimes not being trained works in my advantage because I don't know what rules I'm breaking.
That's what I was going to say. There's benefits to both. And like just sort of trudging your way through it. Like, like you said, you don't know what mistakes you're technically making and you get lots of happy surprises in the end.
That's exactly right. Yes.
Well, and I think people kind of romanticize having a creative business, especially when you have such an online presence the way that you do. And so like, what has surprised you the most about running a creative business full time?
Oh man, the finances.
Oh God, they're the worst.
Trying to like muddle, my poor tax accountant gets these like panic emails from me because I just don't, like I consider myself fairly with it. I'm like, my husband always gives me a hard time because he's like, your Furman is showing you're being a little intellectually snobby. And I'm like, I'm not trying to. So I'm like, I'm not dumb. But when it comes to taxes and accounting, I'm just like, help. The admin side of it and like having to teach myself how to bookkeep and how to do taxes and how to invoice and all of these things is definitely the hardest part of it.
I feel like every creative is like, yep, that's right. Because we want to do our craft and we want to do what we're good at. We don't want to do the financials. And there's that trend going on right now on social media that's like, you're so good at decorating or you're so good at whatever. And it's like, thanks, I used to cry when I did my math homework. And I feel that deep in my soul.
Yes, totally. Yes. I know. I'm like, thanks. I cry every time I send my accountant an email.
I'm constantly telling my bookkeeper, like, I really appreciate you. I think we're a hot mess. And she's like, you're actually not. And I'm like, you're just being nice because I'm paying you.
Yes, I say the same thing. She's like, you're okay. You have a spreadsheet of your expenses. You're not as bad as you think. And I'm like, okay, if you say so.
Yeah, it doesn't come intuitively to me. And so I think I tend to overcomplicate and assume I'm doing it wrong. And there's lots of ways to skin a cat, I guess. And
Yes,
we're just not
totally.
super comfortable with it.
Yes, I think that's it. It's the comfort.
Yes.
I feel comfortable knee deep in ink and paint and whatnot. I don't feel comfortable in numbers.
Yes. Okay. So let's talk about the paint because you've created this recognizable aesthetic. You've got the bandanas, the buttons. Now you're doing the tote bags. A lot of it seems to be rooted with like SEC game day vibe. So talk about how you created this like signature look and just how it's evolved over time.
Yeah, I would say game day is my bread and butter. It's also my favorite, mostly because I am from just a football family. Like my my parents both love football. They both grew up Ole Miss fans. My dad actually went to Southern, so if Southern plays Ole Miss, we do have a little bit of a house divided. But anyway, so we've just always been a football family, big Ole Miss fans, which there's just such like a strong SEC culture. I mean, you get it. You get to Kentucky, like it's just different. And I know that's like their commercial tagline, it just means more or whatever, but I think it's true.
It's accurate. Yep.
Anyway, how I started is I was sort of making myself funky, kind of unusual Ole Miss stuff that was not like branded, but was more taking the colors and like magnolias and like this idea of Mississippi. I mean, my family's been in Mississippi forever. We were the first people my family moved to Nashville and then I brought us back. And so it kind of just started with me making stuff to wear to the Grove and people saying, I like that. I want that. And then branching out and making, stuff for other schools. It's been really fun.
I love seeing pictures and videos of the Grove. I've never been, and it's like my ultimate tailgate. Like I want to make that happen because I tailgated for years at Kentucky and it was always like a huge experience, but the Grove is like the Mecca and I would love to just see what that is like. And, I love hosting and doing the food and having like a cute tablescape, but like keeping it easy. And so I'm a big game day fan, although I'll tell you, I don't like football.
I love football, but the Grove is another world. Growing up, we would come to the Grove just to go to Ole Miss games. And I have a great uncle who played a couple years in the 50s. Like we've always been an Ole Miss family. So we would come to a few games every year. And so I just thought the Grove was everything. I just thought that's how everybody tailgated. And then I went to a UT Knoxville tailgate in college. And I was like, where are your chandeliers? And they were like, what? And listen, don't get me wrong. Tennessee is so fun. It has such a good tailgate culture. Like I can't remember what they call it, but the boats.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
They have the people who watch on the river.
Don't they call it the UT Navy?
Yes. I was like, it's something with the Navy.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
The Knoxville Navy, something like that. Anyway, very cool, but it's very different. It's much more casual. Everywhere is much more casual compared to Ole Miss. But I think that's the fun of it. I don't know. It's very much if you get it, you get it kind of thing. We think it's fun to put these huge blue and white ginger jars and these gorgeous, huge flower arrangements. And people are like, you're acting like this is a formal dinner party. And we're like, yes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you dress up and yes.
And you dress up. Yeah. And you don't have to. Nobody's going to kick you out of the Grove for wearing jeans. But I don't know. It's fun.
It's very fun. And when you were talking about you were taking just colors, team colors and creating things, that has always been my vibe for tailgate is give me the team colors, regular clothes that I can wear instead of it just being a jersey or a branded something. I'm not really a t-shirt girl. You're mostly going to find me in a dress because it's one piece of clothing to put on and I look elevated. And so that's why I love that you said, where are your chandeliers? You're speaking my language, right? Like a ginger jar and a chandelier absolutely makes for a winning ambiance.
And Ole Miss loves pattern mixing, like the grow. I mean, it's just these women with just impeccable taste. And to take that group and then turn them loose on a tailgate is just so fun. In my opinion, I mean, we love like a pattern mix, and a lot of people do put chandeliers in their tents. And now it's sort of like a wink, wink, like we know what we're doing and we're going to lean into it because you're going to make fun of us either way for it. So why not like be in on it?
Oh, I'm not making fun. I think it's fabulous. Southern culture at its finest.
No, not you, but people love to give Ole Miss kind of a hard time. Currently, people are really giving Ole Miss a hard time. And I don't know. I feel like we're just like, we are who we are. Ole Miss, along with the SEC, definitely has a history that we can't ignore. And I think it's important that we don't ignore it. I'm more talking about like the tailgating, throw up, never lost a party, like you're going to give us a hard time for wearing heels and dresses in mud, and we're going to do it anyway.
Sure are. So you started making this game day stuff. It started making waves. People were asking you about it. You started making it and selling it. And so then that gets us to where we are today. And you're starting to create some new stuff like the totes, right?
Yes. Yeah. I'm wondering if I have one here. Oh yeah. Hang on. Let me show you one. This is a fun Ole Miss. So magnolias again are sort of my bread and butter, right? But you can tell it's Ole Miss because of the colors, but it's not like branded anywhere. A pair of scissors in here that I've been looking for.
I have those scissors.
Like bag charms to sort of go along with it.
Yeah, so cute.
Thank you. So it's fun. And it's, to me, really fun to sort of try to think outside of the box, right? Because I wanted to be almost like an inside joke with other fans. Like for Alabama, I just did a button that was Alabama colors and there was just a yellow hammer on it, like the outline of the yellow hammer, right? And if you don't know Rammer, Jammer, Yellow Hammer, you're going to be like, what is that? But if you do, you're going to be like, that's clever, which is sort of the like intersection where I like to live.
Yeah, that's fun. So you've talked about, you call your business your third child.
Yeah.
What's it like managing running this business and motherhood and all the other things that you have going on in your life?
Well, both my kids are in school, so it's a lot easier now than it was before. But they get out next Friday. So summer, I sort of protect and do like bulk orders. I don't take as much custom orders just because doing custom orders individually are my favorite and also the bulk of my business, right? Like I have this huge order of like bag charms and everybody told me this is what color I want. This is what ink color and pattern. But doing stuff like one individual takes a lot of time. So the summer I try to do more like big orders, like wholesale orders. So that's one way that I have structured it a little bit. And then my kids go to camp a couple weeks, but my husband is a youth pastor. And so we go to Montreat, North Carolina for our high school trip. And we go to a summer camp up in Wisconsin for our middle school trip. And I always go with him, and our kids come with us on one and stay with family for the other. So I end up having to put my shop on hold for about half the summer just because I'm not home. And a part of me is like, oh, the revenue. But I think it's nice to have a break. And like during those weeks, I always take a personal craft project that I'm working on. It's when some fun stuff has come out. Like I have a sweatshirt idea that I'm going to take all the like components of with me this summer and see what happens. And if it turns out, then I'll probably have it available in the fall. But it's nice to give myself a little bit of a breather from like as a creative from doing stuff other people have requested and getting to explore ideas that I have been kicking around and just haven't had time for.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking when you said you take that break and like, oh, the revenue. But also it seems like such a great opportunity, like you said, to try new things or just to recharge creatively and like be in nature and do other things. Because then when you come back to the work, at least my experience is I'm so much better at it because I haven't just been grinding and forcing it. It comes more naturally after that reset.
Absolutely. And Montreat, I don't know if you're familiar with Montreat.
I'm not.
Okay. It is near Black Mountain, which is a very cute mountain town, kind of close to Asheville. It is a So we are Presbyterian, but we're specifically PCUSA. And so it is a PCUSA like college and also retreat center. And so tons and tons of like retired Presbyterian pastors end up at Montreat. But they do, in the summers, they do youth conference. So you can pick what week you go. And so my husband takes his youth group, but I get to go, and they have like a full blown ceramics studio, which is not something that I get to do during the year, because that talk about a high bar of entry just because of the supplies that you it's like wheel pottery, which I've actually gotten more into hand building. But anyway, they have like dialed in the creative process so that you create Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and you get to pick up your pieces glazed and fired and everything on Saturday. So, which is unheard of. Like that turnaround time for ceramics is wild, and they work really hard to make it happen. So I really do take it sort of as an artist's retreat to go get to try like a medium that's pretty new to me and I'm not great at, frankly, which is kind of good sometimes. And they always bring in like guest teachers to teach different things. And so it's sort of just luck of the draw who's guest teaching the week that you're there. Anyway, it is definitely an artist's retreat, which I love.
That's really cool. I suck at the wheel. I took it in high school, tried it a little bit, like when I was in Lexington at like a urban county government had some classes. And so then we did hand building, and I have some pieces that I'm very proud of, but I did it with a friend who was traumatized by pottery and will never pick it up again. So I know what you mean by it being a challenging medium, because it's hard to come up with good pieces in the end.
Yeah, I feel like you can like get semi okay at it, and then getting really good at it is really hard. There's like such a big jump between like, I have all of my coffee mugs I've made at Montreat over the years. My husband's like, please stop making mugs. But like going from amateur to like really talented, to me, is such a huge gap.
I agree. It takes, what's the 10,000 hours, right? To get really good at something. And whew, that's a lot of pottery time. So you're working with a lot of high school and college age women, kind of volunteering and leading them. What do you think this generation of young women needs the most from mentors right now? I love mentoring as well, and I'm curious your perspective on this.
I think that, to me, I just want to encourage them to trust themselves. I think more than ever, they have so many voices. Like Instagram came out, I'm aging myself, but Instagram came out my senior year of college. And we had Facebook, but it wasn't sort of the social media animal that it is now. TikTok was not even a thought, right? And so I just think we're in this like information age, and it's almost too much. And like, that is not me being anti-intellectual by any stretch. My Furman professors are like, what? No. I think like the academic intellectual side of things is more important than ever. However, I think we've got like a little bit too loud of a chorus sometimes. And so I think just encouraging them to like trust themselves and try things and make mistakes, because I think this generation can feel like they're constantly on a stage, because they are, like their worst mistakes are recorded and posted. And I think that can be paralyzing. Yeah. And so, but it's so hard, right? Because I don't necessarily have a solution for them, except to say like, sometimes you got to take a step back and just not engage, which is hard to tell someone who grew up with iPads in their classrooms. Like it's so baked in. I feel really lucky that I was of the generation that had like a computer lab that we went to and then we left, and like we didn't have cell phones. I mean, we had like, T9 texting. So I don't know. But again, it can be really hard because it is so baked into everything that they do. I mean, even like taking exams online, I'm just like, oh no. I'm thankful that I had to go write my history essays by hand, because that felt important to me. So the fact that we're slowly getting away from that is a bummer.
It is interesting, though, because you see some parts of culture swinging back to the analog side of things. with families doing some of the landlines. I can't think of what the name is called now.
Yes. We're talking about getting home.
Yeah. I mean, I know lots of people that enjoy that. I went from GASP, a digital calendar, to a handwritten planner because I enjoy that so much more. I just get tired of looking at a screen all the time. So, I mean, I hear what you're saying, and I think you have to your point, trust yourself and know like where you need to get your information and where you need to be on screens, and then pull away from it and find other times as well where you can just reset and get away from all of it, because there are messages coming at us constantly.
And as a creative, I have to be really stringent about recognizing when I'm starting to fall into this like comparison trap of seeing what other people are making and then how that's impacting my own creativity, and being able to like extricate myself from that, which we're some of the first people to have to deal with that, right? Like Vermeer was not looking at what his fellow painters were. I mean, he was in a sense, but not in this constant bombardment way that we are. So I think sometimes social media, and like I love Pinterest. Like I find it really inspirational. However, sometimes I find myself making stuff that I'm like, this isn't my vibe. This looks like what someone else did. And it's because I've been looking at too many other people's work.
Yeah, it's a balancing act for sure. Finding inspiration and then just copying it.
Yes, it's hard. And like you want to be on trend, but where is that line?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but you still got to be authentic. I mean, that message shows up so much in everything we're doing. We've still got to be us. And how do you figure out how to do that without having all these messages like in your mind, blending all the time? What advice would you give to somebody listening who has a creative interest or a side hobby, but is nervous about putting it out into the world?
I probably would say be careful about turning the hobby that you love into.
Be careful what you wish for.
I definitely, there are things that there are hobbies of mine that I will never monetize. Knitting comes to mind. I could never charge enough to make knitting profitable because it is such a slow hobby. And to me, it's so deeply personal. And so I think like if there's something that brings you like intense joy and like comfort, and that's how I feel about knitting, protecting that and not monetizing it is sometimes your better option. However, if you are creative and you are like looking to get into that, I think the biggest advice I would give is valuing your time appropriately. I think it can be easy to think this is fun for me. I don't want to charge because I'm enjoying myself. I still struggle with that. And that is what I think is going to lead to burnout, because at a certain point, you're going to be resentful of the work that you're having to do and you feel like you're not being compensated for it. And so I think from the get-go, like appropriately charging for the time that it takes you to do a craft.
That is good advice. And I would say if you aren't sure what is appropriate, then get some outside guidance, like whether it's a coach or talk to a fellow creative just to get some perspective, because sometimes you don't know at all where to start. But that is very good advice. And we just talked about that on an episode with Molly Tarr. We were talking about how creatives we're so grateful to be doing work that we love, that we also feel is meaningful. And so it feels selfish sometimes to charge appropriately for it. And we're doing ourselves a disservice. And that's exactly what you're saying here.
Yes, yes. And my other advice, honestly, is to time yourself. It is taking you longer than you think. I'm consistently surprised by the amount of time things take me.
What is it, like 50% more than you think?
About, yeah. I mean, by the time I factor in, because a lot of my stuff, and I don't factor in, so like I screen print, and so there's drying time. And so I don't factor in stuff like drying time, but I do sort of have to be mindful of my like drying rack is like blocked off for 24 hours when it's full of bandanas and I can't be making new work. So I do need to like compensate. I don't know. And then when I'm like making something that I enjoy making, I think it takes me half the amount of time because I don't think about all the little steps that have to happen.
Yeah, no, those are good things that if you're not in the business, you don't know, you don't think about until you're in the thick of it.
Yeah. And it's hard to change your prices.
Yes, it is. There's lots of heartburn around that. Well, Christian, I'm so glad that you came on and joined us today. If people want to follow along or connect with you outside of this, how can they do that?
I am on TikTok and Instagram at Christian Wash Garvey. I think we'll put that somewhere. And then I have an Etsy shop. It's Pinewood Press Co. So if you search that, I think we'll also give you the link to it.
Yeah, we'll put all of this in the show notes so it's written out for folks.
And it's all linked on my socials. Yeah, but those are the best places. My Instagram DMs are the best way to get a hold of me. TikTok DMs are the wild, wild west, and I try not to go into them.
All right, well, got it. Well, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Welcome to Liz's House Hot Takes. This is where I take the lessons I've learned over the last 16 years of designing Greek houses and offer you my pro tips. Here's today's house hot take. If it's constantly breaking, replace it with better. Cheap desks, flimsy bar stools, entry rugs that curl, replacing the same item year after year is more expensive than upgrading it once and doing it well. I recommend saving yourself future headaches by investing in higher quality pieces the first time around. You can refinish or recover pieces down the road if you need to. And that's a much happier project than hiring a handyman to put a Band-Aid on cheap, broken furniture. Thanks for listening to another House Hot Take. For more inspiration, check out the PDR Interiors Instagram or TikTok. I'm Liz Alexander, and this is the Sorority Chat Podcast. Catch you next time. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you're listening on a podcast platform, make sure to follow the show so you never miss an episode. And if you got something out of today's conversation, we'd love for you to leave us a 5-star review. It helps us reach more listeners just like you. If you're watching on YouTube, be sure to check out this video right here or this one over here. And don't forget to like and subscribe. It really helps us out. I'm Liz Alexander, and this is the Sorority Chat Podcast. Catch you next time. This podcast is produced by Collier Landry for Don't Touch My Radio. Copyright Liz Alexander.